Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Happy New Year.
Happy 2024.
I can't believe it.
Can you believe we're like almost halfway through the third decade of this century?
No, I cannot. Time is flying. And I really thought we'd have like flying cars and stuff by now.
I did too. The Jetsons.
Yes.
You know, I used to, the Jetsons I thought were a thing, for
We're
sure.
getting closer. My little Volvo can do it can drive itself a little bit, but I have to keep my hands on the wheel.
Yeah.
Getting closer, but come on.
Remember Y2K 25 years ago?
Barely. I can't believe that was 25 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, we thought we don't know if there's going to be electricity in 2 minutes.
Nothing's going to work. Oh my gosh.
Then it went by.
That to me is a fun memory though, because it speaks to what happens in the news all the time. It's like everything is such a huge deal and the world is coming to an end. And in reality, it was a blip and we all moved on and forgot about it.
That's a good point. Like these things that seem so catastrophic, years later, like, oh yeah, why were we so upset about
that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I have good Ollie news. My granddaughter, I have a granddaughter that's in the NICU. She was born prematurely by about 3 months. She has
fans, August. I know, that are listening. Actually, we've had some feedback and there's so many people out there praying for her. Thank you for that.
Yep. She was born at 1.5 pounds. She's now 8.5 pounds. She's been in the NICU for like 5 months now. She's got 2 more months to go, but she's had pulmonary hypertension, which it gets caused by, the fact that she was really little and they had to pump oxygen into her lungs. And so that damages the lungs, but if they don't do that, she'll die. So that it's kind of a, mixed blessing. So now she's recovering from it and she's just getting better and better and better.
Oh my God.
It's a miracle.
That is a
Modern
miracle.
medicine is just really something.
Yes.
So eventually we're going to get this little healthy baby back.
Oh.
Yeah, really. Thank you, UCSF. Absolutely.
It's amazing.
So welcome to A Place of Possibility. I am Richard Del Monte.
I'm Angela Wright.
And we're happy to have you with us today on this first episode in 2024. So what are we talking about today?
So we are spilling some secrets today.
Some tea.
We have a bunch of interesting topics for you, actually. We're going to bounce around a little bit on 3 or 4 things that we think are really important for you to know as we're going into the new year. Yeah. As a saver, as an investor, as a human being in the United States of America. And a lot of these, I'm going to call it spilling the tea because a lot of these things are not discussed publicly. I feel like we're pulling back a curtain on some of these things.
Definitely.
And we're going to give you our market prediction for 2024.
What? We make predictions?
I just said that.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Call our attorney.
Can't wait to hear what this is.
Speaking of, as always, everything we say on this show is for educational purposes only. You should absolutely talk to your own advisors before implementing anything that we talk about on this show. And if we talk about past performance, it's never a guarantee of future results. So why don't you start us off?
Okay. So there was an article written this past week in the Wall Street Journal by an author named James McIntosh. And he's kind of a commentator and, so-called predictor of the markets, which just from that point on, I probably don't like him. So basically he says that the year that just ended in 2023 just astonished everybody. Nobody predicted the markets were going to be the way they were, as strong as they were, which the S&P was up 24%. NASDAQ was like 48, and the Dow, the poor measly Dow was up like, 12, I think. Poor measly Dow. Some little.
The Dow, as a reminder, the Dow is only the 40 largest stocks in the United States. It's only 30 stocks, 30 largest stocks in the United States. Yeah. So it's not really a good indicator of the overall health of our markets or economy, by the by.
Got to be careful because we don't want Benny the fact checker to come back and say, hey, it's not.
There's already 30. A text on my phone.
Okay. So anyway, no one predicted these markets. They thought because the Fed had raised interest rates faster and more steeply than in the last 40 years, that for sure there was going to be a recession, right? How could there not be, is what they thought. Yeah. We didn't think that,
Oh, we were right, of course.
Yeah, and in fact, if you go back to when you and I, you can fact check us on this because we did a show, a talk in front of Rossmore in Walnut Creek, and we have it on our archives. You can look it up. And we talked about this, where people were predicting that we were going to have a recession in October of 2022, and we said, nobody knows. We don't know. It may, maybe not, but it's not a definite, know. And now it's funny because a year and a half later, almost, they're still predicting for this year. Guess what? A recession. They don't give up. They're always predicting, the bottom is going to fall out and it's going to be terrible, terrible, terrible.
Well, I'm sorry, but markets are calm and everything is fine is not exactly good news.
No.
Who's going to tune into that?
It's not the news they want to talk about for sure.
Yeah, it's not good programming.
It's great news, really, but they don't want to talk about it. Right. Yeah, not good programming. Right. So we want to share with you some of the wonderful quotes that were made by market pundits over the last several years. I take pleasure in saving these for future. And now I've got them, and we're gonna give them to you.
So don't listen to the market pundits unless it's us making the prediction because we were right.
And you could take our prediction. You'll see. Our prediction is going to be accurate, and you'll see.
Okay, so let's go October in 2022 when we gave that presentation where we really here's the economic data. Maybe not.
Right.
We have, so first up, billionaire hedge fund manager Paul Tudor Jones. He manages a $12 million fund. His claim to fame is accurately predicting the October 1987 market crash. It's Black Monday.
Even a stopwatch is right, twice a day, right?
That's
there you go. Yeah.
So like he's been the guy, but since then, his predictometer has been slightly off, and his returns have dimmed. And in October of 2022, he said that the U.S. was either near or already in a recession, and as we know that
not true.
Happened.
Not true.
Yeah.
That same month, Citigroup, large bank in the United States, cut its year-end S&P 500 target to 4,000, and they predicted a down market for stocks in 2023. Again, sorry.
Yep. Okay. So let's see. Morgan Stanley, they're big. They had to have been right?
Yep.
Morgan Stanley. All right. So on January 12th of 2023, they come out of the woodwork and they call for a double-digit drop in stocks during the first part of the year. This is great. Instead, they went up by double digits, 14% between January 12th and the end of July. Yeah. They did the exact opposite of what Morgan said.
Again. Okay. On April 9th of last year, 2023, Jeffrey Gundlach, who is the founder of the large DoubleLine investment portfolio, said, these are kind of funny. He saw a red alert recession signal and predicted the Fed would start cutting rates soon. It's now 9 months later. No recession ever appeared. No rate cuts have occurred. And one hopes that he canceled his red alert, recession alert signal because if his investors were relying on that, they didn't participate in the 24% stock market returns of last year. That would be a shame.
Yeah.
So he gets an ant also for that call. You see what happens when you make these things? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I guess someone has to. I mean, those guys are probably sitting there going, someone has to. Exactly. You don't have to. You could just point to the historical data and say, we don't know exactly what's going to happen in the next 1 year, but we have no reason to believe it will be any different from the last 50 years.
Right.
But that's boring. I'm not tuning into that. So,
Yeah. You have to go off the air because who's going to pay for advertising on that?
Hey, remember last year when all of these banks went down and our economy was going to completely crash and China was going to take us over? Remember all that?
Yep.
It's so funny how it just... Now, a lot of us are still suffering the impact. Like, I'm not a fan of being a Chase customer from First Republic, but,
True.
I think the big deal, though, is that we thought we were going to see the most epic commercial real estate crash in history, and that has not come to pass. We have seen some softening in certain markets, like downtown San Francisco. You've got a lot of vacancies, but it was not the epic crash that anybody predicted going to happen. And in fact, REITs, real estate investment trusts, a lot of you, our clients, have them in your portfolios. Many people use them. They're actually positive. So
imagine that. They're positive.
I don't have to imagine. It's real.
Okay. In October of 2023, the Wall Street Journal came out. I can't believe they did this, but they said they have to write something, right? The 60-40 investment portfolio, which for those of you who don't know, 60-40 portfolio is 60% stocks and 40% fixed income like bonds and money markets and things like that, cash. That's been a staple of the investment world since before I started in the
Stone Ages.
In the Cro-Magnon era. And
do you even remember that word?
Pleistocene era or whatever it was,
What? How do you remember?
I don't know.
This?
That thing stick in my mind. Don't talk to me about what happened yesterday, but so anyway, it's been a staple for a long time because it keeps people, it's a safe, it's a conservative portfolio. The Wall Street Journal said it was dead. The 60-40 portfolio, it actually was dead. It was just not useful anymore. It didn't protect people. It didn't do anything. Yet it turns out that 1 month later, they should have waited a month to publish that and they would have just caught themselves. But 1 month later, the 60-40 portfolio actually had its best month since 2020. So not to worry, folks, the 60-40 portfolio is still very much alive and well, and reports of its early demise were premature. What are you going to do?
I'm going to talk about the prediction that I hope you'll ignore this year, because this one is a fresh one. And if you have been listening to the things we've been saying. So crypto execs are back. I guess they need some money. And they're going to start employing the greater fool theory, because they're predicting that Bitcoin is going to go to 100,000 this year. Yeah. They are predicting.
Yeah, which almost guarantees it's going to go to 1,000.
Good luck with that.
But anyway, if these data you get in one ear, out the other, really, So you just can't make this stuff up, honestly, and it begs the question, why would anybody ever listen to these people? Why? Their market predictions are not going to be accurate, so why should we listen to them? Our answer, of course, is we shouldn't. We've been saying this for a long time. The media publishes these things because they're salacious and they're eye-catching. As Angela just said, they're not going to say, hey, another year, it's going to be good. Don't worry about it. Sit back and go live your life. But the thing that's bad about it is they never come back and tell you when these predictions that were made before, how they worked out.
Right. So you keep following them.
So you can know. You're just like, they trot the same guys out again, saying the same things, predicting the worst, and no one's ever held accountable.
It's I have to say, I'm becoming more and more angry about this. That maybe is this what happens when you start to get old? Like you just get angry about things and then you can't stop. Like
I'm tired of this. I'm not going to take it anymore.
That's how I feel about this, because the number of folks, even clients, that came to us in the beginning of last year and said, I'm just really worried about the markets. I'm watching the news. I don't want to get back in or take me out. And I said, well, when would be the time? And I had a client actually say to me, when things calm down. And I thought, when would that person ever see things calm down? Because they watch the news. It's never calm on the news, And so I would actually argue that these financial medias are doing investors a huge disservice, because this one person in particular, they kept him out of the market and they kept him from making 24%. He kept his money in a savings account because of what was happening on the news. Yeah. That is irresponsible.
Yep. And of course, he probably wants to get in now that the markets are up 24%,
of course he does.
Right?
Of course,
and he should have gotten in. I mean, it's fine to get in now.
Because they're calm now. Or they're not right now. We're at the beginning of the year. The markets are down.
So he's going to wait again.
Fresh
probably.
crisis.
Let's wait again. Yeah.
Oh, I hate you all so
much.
It's
really annoying. There should be a class action lawsuit against the media and say the whole United States is going to sue you because we rely on your stupid advice that you never get held accountable
First
for.
Amendment rights.
And it kills people's future.
I can say whatever I want.
Yeah,
that's what they'll use. So did you know, let me just bust this one wide open, that anyone can pay to publish an article in Forbes magazine?
Anyone?
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyone.
If you just write a check?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they say they're vetting you, but Forbes wants their money, so they're not. And we have been prospected by Forbes. This is why I know this. If you pay this amount of money, I will publish your article. So I know many of you listening to this podcast right now read Forbes magazine, and you think of it, all of those writers, as credible.
All experts, yeah.
Some are, of course, there are staff writers and there are experts. And some of the advisors that are putting articles out there, some of it is correct and good information, but I want you to know that they bought that article. They are there to advertise their business to you, to put that Forbes article printout on their wall and say, look, we were published in Forbes. You should definitely put your money with us. They bought that.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to calm down.
No, it's true. It's all very true. It's all very true. And on that same topic, we all know who Jim Cramer is, right? He's the crazy guy, Mad Money on CNBC, and he breaks things and throws things around and all that stuff. We talked about him last year, and we were laughing because we did an analysis of his predictions from the prior period of time, and he was wrong more than half the time. The S&P 500 would have dramatically outperformed his picks. But, people follow him. So they came out with an ETF. We were laughing about the ETF that tracks his, and so it only lasted for 5 months. They had to shut it down because the returns were so terrible. They only made 2%. And so they just said, we're shutting it down.
Yeah.
So, again, Jim Cramer, all the press he gets.
Yeah.
There's no there, folks.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot predict. I know we all want the comfort of saying someone must know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen in the short term. Nobody knows. We do know the long term is going to be great. Right?
All signs point to.
Yeah.
No change from his
forward and backwards. They all point to that. So here's going back to our original article that we started with at the top of the show by James McIntosh, bless his soul, bless his heart. He said to wisely invest in 2024, we have to decide why the economy defied expectations in 2023. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't need to know any of that stuff. All you have to do is invest your money and stay invested. Ignore all the so-called more experts and avoid trying to time the market or trying to be cute and understand what's going on in the markets today, because it doesn't matter. Yep. You're in for the long term.
Yep. Let me tell you a client story.
Yeah,
you
please.
Know the story, obviously. Let me tell you all a client story. So we like to refer to this woman as the canary in the mine shaft. She has been with you for 23 years. Mm-hmm. And it's not anytime the markets are moving, it's when the news is up about the markets moving that this client calls us. And so we use her to kind of judge the mood of what's going on. If she's calling, the news is out, people are worried, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so it was so interesting. The last time that you talked to her, you told her that the day she started working with us, the Dow was at 10,000, right?
Yep.
And then
2001, I think. Yeah.
Yep, that adds up. Yep.
Yep.
So then today it's at 37,000, right? If the market performs exactly the same way that it did over the next 20 years, the Dow will be at 137,000 in 2046.
It's just math.
It's just math. Yeah. So what is to be accomplished by, worrying about the day-to-day gyrations of the market? And before you say, no, that's not possible, the Dow will never hit 137,000. We thought it would never hit 10,000. We thought it would never hit 37,000.
We didn't. Some people did. Yeah.
No, I read Irrational Exuberance in like 2000.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I
have no doubt. If it just goes up by 11% a year or whatever, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no question in my mind. So why should we worry about the day-to-day or whatever? Who cares?
Wait, so what is your prediction for 2024?
Oh, okay. The prediction, our market prediction is first and only time you're ever going to hear this probably in our history. The stock market in 2024 is going to fluctuate. That's all we can guarantee, folks.
Womp womp.
Annual performance is meaningless anyway. It doesn't mean anything. It's really just too short of a time frame to draw any kind of logical conclusions about the validity of what you're doing.
Right.
As far as your investment portfolio and your asset allocation. Mm-hmm. This is a long game. We need way longer. Sometimes they even say 5 years is too short of a period to get statistical, important, reliable information.
Right.
The only way to make sense out of this whole thing is just to think long term, keep putting as much money as you can into equities, and relax. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's going to pay off. It never has not paid off.
Right. Right. And if you're not staying in, if you're coming and going, I mean, if you missed the last 2 months of the year,
you missed it all.
2 months, the whole thing recovered in 2 months. Mm-hmm. What are you doing?
Yeah. We had a lady that who will remain nameless. She had money and she was kind of new investor, and I knew she was a little squirrely, but she got nervous, and it was March, I think 14th of this last year. She called and said, "You got to get me out. I want to go into a CD." "Why are you doing this?" "My sister-in-law said, it's going to blah, 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 blah." So she got out. It turns out in hindsight, that was the very lowest point of the year in stocks. Had she just waited one more day to pull the trigger, she would have started feeling better because it started going up. Mm-hmm. And she missed out on the whole year because she got panicky. Mm-hmm. And her brilliant advisors and her family told her, "Oh, it's bad. This is really bad. This is unprecedented and whatever, And it turns out it wasn't. Yeah. It was just fine.
Yep.
There was nothing. Moving on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you know?
What?
You do know. And I want you to tell everyone how it is possible to still get a 3% mortgage rate.
Can you?
You can.
If you have a time machine or something, you go back in time.
Tell them how to do it.
All right. You can actually do this. It's really true. You can actually get 3% is even high. You could probably get 2.7% because that's some of those mortgages are out there. You probably know that that most mortgages, almost all mortgages, when you sell your house or transfer it to somebody else, the mortgage becomes due and payable. It's called a due on sale clause or due on transfer clause. That was put into effect in 1982 by Congress. The Garn Act is what it's called.
Your buddy.
My buddy, yeah, Jake Garn. And it required that to happen. So I don't know what the point was, but there are some loans though that are still assumable. That means you can buy the house and you could take over the mortgage from the person who has the mortgage now.
And not old loans. They just carved out certain kinds of loans.
Right.
So that are still possible.
So loans through the FHA, through the United States Department of Agriculture. I didn't even know they made loans. They did, but they do for some rural kind of lands. Yeah. And the Veterans Administration. So if you can buy a house from someone who has one of those mortgages, you can assume their loan and take over their payments. How about that? Mm-hmm. And but you have to qualify, and it's really, really hard to qualify. So for the VA, let me make sure I get this right. So for you're going to laugh. All FHA and VA, let's see, USDA and VA loans, you need a credit score of at least 620. Kind of hard to make, right? 620.
Yeah.
Break.
Yep.
And
most people are buying their homes are in this area.
For the FHA, it's 580. I mean, you could have a recent bankruptcy and still be at 580. So, the trick is to find houses that have these loans. So it's not common knowledge. And in the real estate market, I don't think it's caught on yet that sellers who want to have a VA or one of these loans actually has a big leg up on everybody else because you can take over their loan and get financing at the low rate that they have. And so once they find out, they could, if I had a 3% mortgage or 2.7, I would be wanting to sell my house to you for a higher price because even adjusted for paying the higher price, you take over my payments, your payments are still going to be lower than getting a 7% mortgage today. Way lower. Yeah. Way, way, way lower. Yep. So what you need to do is get a good realtor and find out, tell the realtor, I'm interested in talking to anybody who's got a loan that, one of these government loans that was issued prior to 2022 when the rates were low.
And anyone who's buying a house should just ask what kind of loan the current owner has, because you might find out you're buying your home from a veteran. Unless you think these aren't out, like who has an FHA loan? Remember the financial crisis? A lot of people have FHA loans. Tons of them. Anybody who didn't want to put 20% down has an FHA loan and might still have it if they didn't refi. Here, one of our employees got a VA loan only 2 years ago. If he wanted to sell his house, you could assume his loan at his amazing interest rate. Yeah. So it's out there totally. They are available. And you could get your kids in these loans. You just have to be smart and you got to look for them. You got to dig. You got a needle in the haystack. Ask your realtor. But, they're there and you should, I think you could even buy rentals like that. Right? I mean, why wouldn't, who's to say you can't? I can't see. I don't know. Not. We have to see. Yeah. But I would be trying to do that. I mean, I'm just telling you, this is something that is not widely known, and you heard it here first. So if you make money, let us know. You can come invest it with us. Yeah. No, but why would you not? Of course. They're there. They're just right for the taking. Yep. So, questions to ask. Topic changed. Okay. If you have a kid that's heading to college this year, you're probably thinking about financial aid. And what a lot of us assume is that we put our little numbers into the FAFSA system and the college spits back out some sort of offer and we can accept or reject that offer. Did you know that you can negotiate college financial aid packages? Absolutely, you can negotiate these things. There are, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, actually, that none of us ever hear about. Right. And so, but how do you do that? Like, as a regular old Joe parent, I don't know what I'm supposed to be asking for. So we're going to give you 2 resources that you can go do some research and figure out what kind of financial aid packages the schools you're looking at or that have accepted are giving to other students. And you can request an adjustment. And it never hurts to ask. It's like a 20-minute research and email, Yep. So, okay, one site is meritmore.com. That's MERITMORE. And it gives you stats on the average merit-based financial aid package that each school is providing, as well as the average need-based. So you get all that data. So imagine you're going in like to a negotiation or you're playing poker. Let's do that. You're playing poker. And you can see what cards the other person has. How about that? Turn the tables on those schools. Oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah. And they even have a feature you can enter your kids' SAT, ACT scores, their GPA, and then you can instantly see how much financial aid the schools would offer you based on that as well. Another website you can look at is tuitionfit.com. Treat that one like a second opinion after using Merit More. But this data is out there and you should be using it to your advantage.
Did you say you can enter in the SAT and all that?
Yeah.
You already said that?
Yeah.
Okay. I should listen better.
Listening? You have a senior moment?
Probably. I was thinking of the next topic, which is really interesting about throwing away food.
How does this relate to my finances?
Because you're throwing away food, you're wasting money. Americans
more.
waste, you should see wait till you see these stats, how much money we waste on food that we end up throwing away. So we're talking, of course, about food expiration dates. According to the Wall Street Journal, food experts they broadly agree that the expiration dates on every box of crackers and beans and bag of apples pretty much squanders your money. Throws away perfectly good food and fills up the landfills needlessly. First of all, those dates on those packages are not about the safety of the food. You think that they are, but they say things like fresh until, display until, best when used by, better if used by, sell by, enjoy by, or even just they have a date on them with no words at all. Those dates they're really about telling retailers when to rotate the stock on the shelves, not about whether the food is good. If anything, they're more indicative of when the products are at peak quality. But then they've got a long tail, as you said, with the preservatives we have nowadays. They could still be good in 150 years, some of those things.
It's not great for us.
So to their credit, the food manufacturers have tried in vain to try to educate people. I don't know how hard they've tried, because the more food you throw away, the more money they make. But they say they've tried really hard to explain that it's about peak quality. But most foods will last way longer than that. So something that was meant to be a helpful guide for consumers, ends up being a rule that people think that they have to live by. And so the most current thinking is to have, we should be having a use by date on packages that indicate storage for things like fresh milk, deli meats, things like that. That's when you need it, right?
Yeah,
because
things that actually go bad.
It can actually go bad. Johns Hopkins University has found that 84% of U.S. consumers throw out food at the package date at least occasionally, and 37% of consumers do it always or frequently or usually. Sorry.
So I just want to say,
talk about your mom.
Vindicated. Italian mothers everywhere. This is your moment. I was just joking on the last episode about how we go into my poor mother's house and we all make a game out of going through her pantry and her fridge to see who can find the oldest expiration date. And then guess what? We throw all that food away. I'm so sorry, Mom. You were right. Just screenshot that. So
Winnie, get your checkbook out and figure out get your calculator out and figure out how much your daughter is throwing food away, how much she costs you from that.
It will never happen again.
Experts say the best way to protect yourself from unsafe food is by eating unsafe food is to ignore the best by dates and instead keep your refrigerator set at 37 degrees.
Store it properly.
Store it properly. Things that get too hot, they do go bad. But they said that even though old food will taste bad, it's still really unlikely to be dangerous, especially if you cook it afterwards. Yeah. So legal alert, we're not telling you your food is fine after that date. We're not food experts. We're just telling you what the Wall Street Journal and these experts said, okay? This is my CYA moment here. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, we're throwing a lot of stats at you, estimates that 31% of the available food supply goes uneaten. 31%. Retailers throw away 41 billion pounds of food annually.
I can't even conceptualize
while
that.
Consumers throw away another 90 billion pounds of food.
Can you put that in normal terms?
Yeah, it works out to 8.7 pounds per week per consumer, per household. And it's 387, I don't know who does these calcs, 387 billion calories that gets thrown away per year, enough to feed every American 1,250 calories.
And it
just gets thrown away.
To abolish poverty, basically.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, pretty amazing, right?
Poverty, sorry.
But there's hope. What?
Hunger. Sorry, not poverty. Hunger.
There's hope, though, that in the UK, they've done away with a lot of these things. The stores have gotten rid of hundreds of labels like that, and as a result of those getting rid of those labels, the waste has gone down by 18% a year.
That's amazing.
food getting thrown away. So there's hope.
Yeah.
We might be able to do that. But in the meantime, you're now empowered. Don't worry about those labels. I mean, I think if the can you have is starting to separate and it's swollen.
See, this is why the labels exist, because some person from a state that shall remain nameless.
Yeah, don't go there. We have people in that state.
No, it's like some person ate some bad yogurt and now, there's.
Yeah. But swollen containers, obviously, that you pop open and they go, boom, that might be something that's got a little bit.
Okay, our retirees out there on a fixed budget, you don't need to buy a new balsamic vinaigrette. Unless there's mold on it.
Never.
Okay, mold on it or something.
I don't even know then.
All right. So
moving on. We
talk a lot about bad news, but there are some cool things that happen in 2023. Sure. And I just want to say them out loud because we need to put some positive news into the world.
Positive spin.
Yeah. So, this all came out of this great Wall Street Journal article that Zachary Karabel wrote. Thank you for that. There was a big health breakthrough this year with weight loss medications like Ozempic, and people are having tremendous success losing weight. Not just for that fact, but it improves all of your numbers when you lose weight. So we're making strides towards diabetes, towards heart disease. People are feeling better about themselves, looking better, getting out there. Ultimately, this reduces the cost of medical services for all of us. So this is a really good thing. Right.
Got to get the cost of those drugs down, but
yeah, it's true. I think there's some issues at play. Let's not deny that, but it's ultimately, thinning America out will help us.
Yeah. We're solving problems that we created though by overeating, right?
Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah.
Speaking of solving problems we created in climate news.
Yeah, how about that?
So there's actually some pretty decent climate news. The hole in the ozone layer, I don't think it's gone. It's gone completely. Gone. Like we don't have to worry about that as we did before. No. And U.S. carbon emissions have decreased by 25% per capita since 2007. Globally, emissions have flatlined since 2017. A Pew poll found that only a third of Americans think enough is being done. We certainly do have a long way to go, but there is improvement and we just don't talk about it enough. So
things are getting better.
Yeah. And then we have all of this, we're moving towards digitization. We've got solar, wind, and heat pumps. Like we're changing the way that we use energy, which will help our climate, of course. Yep. Okay, for Americans, the best news, we did not have a recession last year. We really talked about this.
Yeah, that's big.
I think something interesting here, like no one under the age of 30 believes that. Like they believe alternative facts. You got to write to me if you're under 30 and you don't believe that there wasn't a recession. I'm really curious.
Whether we're still in one.
But there's data there that speaks to that. So that's how we consume and then what we do with that. This generation may change. Yeah, what happens. Yeah. But real GDP grew by 2.6%. Unemployment is back to its lows of 2019. Wage gains in many industries are outpacing inflation, actually.
That's big.
Stellar stock market, which boosted the savings for, 150 million Americans. So we've got our Goldilocks moment in the economy.
Yep. Higher interest rates for savings,
at least.
All that, right?
Yes.
So there's a lot of good things going on.
So many good things. And then, of course, we would be remiss if we didn't give you some of the new savings limits for 2024. So the IRS is hooking us up once again. We can put more money into these accounts. So I'm going to run you through what you can do for 2024. If you are contributing to a 401k or a 403b at work, you can put in $23,000 this year via deferral. If you're over 30 years old, you can do $30,000. Over 50 years old, you can do $30,500, $23,000 or $30,500 if you're over 50. If you are contributing to an IRA or a Roth IRA, it's $7,000 or $8,000 if you're over 50. If you are making more than $146,000 as a single person or $230,000 as married people, you cannot contribute directly to a Roth. So those are your new income limits. You would do a backdoor Roth instead. You can ask us about that. If you're doing a solo 401k or an individual 401k, you can go up to $69,000 this year. Those are, if you are self-employed and do not have employees, don't skip this.
Yeah, it's big.
It's massive. And then if you're over 50, that number is $76,500. SEP IRAs, you can do 25% of your income up to a limit of $69,000 for the year. There's no catch up on SEP IRAs. HSA contributions, that's the health savings account. If you have a self-only plan, you can contribute $4,150. If you have a family plan, you can put $8,300 into an HSA this year. That is tax deductible when you put it in, and no tax on any of that earnings if you pull it out to pay for medical expenses. So it's like the best IRA combo in the world.
Nothing else I know is tax-free going in and tax-free coming out.
That's pretty big. Yep. Just so you know, like how you qualify for a high deductible health plan this year, it's a $1,600 deductible for a self-only or $3,200 for family. Many of you are hitting that and you qualify as a high deductible health plan.
That or more, right?
Yeah. Or more, of course. Yep.
All right.
Whew. So if you're doing, so one thing on that, if you're doing monthly savings into an IRA, you got to bump it this year. If you want to hit the max, you need to change that every January. Same for your 401ks.
And you definitely should.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So you can gush about the stock markets like the rest of us.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for our first episode of 2024.
It was fun.
We hope that you will not listen to any predictions this year. We hope we're leaving things on kind of a positive note with the news that was actually up for last year. As always, if you would like to reach out to us, you can do so at info@aplaceofpossibility. If you'd like to schedule a meeting to discuss your finances or anything we talked about today, you can click on the link in the show notes or on your screen to schedule a meeting with us. We're still offering a copy of the investment answer. It's how we invest client portfolios. It's a great short read. If you want to know more about how that sausage is made, we highly encourage you to grab a copy of that. What else do we need to say? Like and subscribe wherever you are listening. You won't miss a show.
That's right.
Take us home.
So we'll see you again in 2 weeks. And until then, remember, you're invested and so are we. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.